Hello, Santa Clara Unified friends. This is Jody Muirhead from your local school board, and I'm here today to talk about this week's board meeting coming up on Thursday, April 28th. So I will share our screen, my screen, and so we can go through this meeting together. Let me get back up to the top and start up here. The meeting starts at 5 o'clock, and of course we'll be in person, but we'll also be on Zoom and live stream like always. So you can watch it, whatever is best for you. If you want to comment, you need to either be in person or on the Zoom webinar, or you can email to our public comment link. All that's on our website, describe how to do that. And all the links are there. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with us, or you can always just email the board and Dr. Kemp, our superintendent, directly. So let's go through this. So we've got our initial few things at the start of our meeting, and then we go into closed session. So just to give you a heads up, we have a lot on closed session this week. So I've set aside 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours. I have that math right. So it's going to be lengthy. So even though we're starting at 5, we pushed the start time a little bit earlier because I knew the closed session was long. So we won't be back until around 7:30. I can never guarantee exactly what time because I don't know how much discussion we're going to need on every closed session item, but it's going to be about that. So around 7:30 or so, 8 o'clock, we'll be coming out of closed session and coming back into open session. And then we have normal things. We've got a report from the superintendent of what's been going on the last couple of weeks. Got a couple of high schoolers who will be giving their reports. And I'm hoping that some of the high schoolers will actually be in person because we've asked them to come in person. They might also do a pre-recorded report like they've been doing, but we might see them in person as well. We have our report from union president. They each get a couple of minutes, and then COVID update. I can't think that there's been too much going on around COVID. Numbers are pretty low. There hasn't been any big changes with the procedures. So this might be pretty quick, but we have it there just to be sure. Okay, we've got public comments. So if you want to speak on something that's not on the agenda, public comment on unagendized items, you get 2 minutes. If you want to speak on something that's later on the agenda, but you don't want to wait, you can speak earlier. So that's this time. Those are opportunities for you to speak. And then we have consent items. So those are the routine kind of items. Might be things having to do with purchasing or facilities or contracts, all sorts of things. So there's a lot of them. We do them all in one vote, so it goes by very quickly. We don't have any discussion on them. They're just basically routine. If they're not routine, then we pull them off of consent and we talk about them. But we do one quick vote on the consent items. Okay, coming up to our action items, we've got May 6th as National Nurses Day. So we will approve that one. And we've got in human resources, we've got a couple of appointments and a new position here, paraeducator for transitional kindergarten. So we've had transitional kindergarten for a while, but we, based on some new state laws, we are expanding it to more students. And in order to keep the class size ratios low in our TK program, we are bringing in some paraeducators. These are staff who are not, they don't have a teaching credential, but they work with the teachers to help support the classroom. So once we approve the job description, then we can go out and actually hire them. And we'll see how many TK students we have for next year. Those enrollments are still happening. But if we get some classrooms that have more students in them, then probably 10 is the limit without the paraeducator. So around that number, we'll bring in, we'll start hiring paraeducators. So if that's something that you're interested in, take a look at this job description, see what it's about, and you can apply when those positions come open. And then there's a new, this is something we haven't done before, a request to fill the position. So this is a new job position that we talked about earlier this spring, and at the time decided not to go out and hire for that until we got a better idea of our finances. So we'll be looking to make sure that financially speaking, we can add this new position. So there's more information if you click on that item. Then we get down to our business action items. We've got just a few. This one, we're transferring funds from a self-insurance fund that we don't use as much of because we're not self-insuring as much as we used to a special reserve for post-employment benefits. So both ways they benefit our staff, but we need to do a resolution in order legally to do the transfer. We've got a resolution here to let the county supervisors know that we are going out for additional bonds this year for our Measure BB. So that's the bond measure that we've already passed. We've been working on it for a while, but we staged actually buying the bonds because when you buy the bonds, law says that you have to use them in a short amount of time, in just a few years. And because we have a lot of work going on for this bond, we are doing the work over many years. And so we did a bond, issued bonds at the beginning, and we've been using that money, and then we issued some more bonds, and we've been using that money. Now we're going to issue some additional bonds during the next year. And so we need to let the county know so that they can add that to the tax rolls so that we can repay those bonds. That's important. And then this third one under business, I'm pretty excited about. It's an agreement with the city of Santa Clara for the Youth Activity Center. So that facility is at the corner of Cabrillo and San Tomas, right next to Cabrillo Middle School. And it's land that the school district owns, but we let the city, we got into an agreement with them years ago, I think 20 or 30 years ago, to build the Youth Activity Center, the Teen Center, the skate park are all in that facility. And they've managed those buildings for all these years, but the lease expired. It's expiring next month. So we've renegotiated with them. So we're going to take over managing the property, and we're going to share the use of it still, but it means that the middle school and the school district in general will have more access to the buildings during the day. So there's the gym, and there's classrooms in that building, and more space for the middle school and the district in general to use during the day. The city will still have use for it most evenings and weekends and summers when they do programming. So we just came up with a new agreement so that we can continue to share it and maintain it. So we've been working on that for a while, and I'm excited that it went really well. The negotiations, the reports that I have went really well, and now we have a new agreement that's going to get approved. The city has already looked at it, and then we can move forward with the use of that facility. So that's good. The informational items, we have 3 of them here. Reports from staff. Generally, we go through them fairly quickly unless a board member has a particular question about them. So I don't know at this point who will have questions, and then we'll spend more time on them. If you have a comment or question about them, one of these reports, then make sure you're either in person and you've submitted a slip ahead of time, or you are on the Zoom, and when we get to this item, you raise your hand so that we know that somebody wants to speak on this. Otherwise, we'll just keep going. Our discussion items, we have some resolutions about May activities. Mental Health Awareness Month is coming up, Foster Care Awareness Month, Asian Pacific Islander Month, Jewish American Heritage Month. So those are all coming up. And then we also have this one, our climate change resolution, and I'm excited to see that come up at this meeting, because we talked about it some time ago, but it wasn't ready. We wanted to get more input on it, and so now we've worked on it and we've gotten students involved in this discussion because there are a lot of students who are really passionate about climate change and the effect it's going to have on them as they grow up and live their lives. So we had a committee with students and with teachers and other community members, and working on this resolution. Now it's coming back. I've heard, I was asked if we could move it earlier because they're hoping to have some students actually come and speak about the item. So I'm going to move it up much earlier in the agenda, just as close to after we get back from closed session as we can. So I'm hoping that we get to this item by 8 or 8:15, because I don't want to keep the kids too late. So if you wanted to hear from the kids, or if you want to speak on this item, realize it's going to come pretty early in the agenda. So so check in near 7:45 or 8, see where we're at, because I'm going to try and get to this as soon as we can, so that our kids don't have to stay up. They are busy. We don't want to be past their bedtime. And then the last one on here, planning, is we've had this LGBTQIA++ work group talking about issues pertinent to this community, and we've been talking about this, talking about the makeup of this group and what we want them to be talking about, looking at policies, resolutions, that sort of thing. And a board member wanted to expand the scope and the membership of the group. So we're just going to have talk about that. Remember, we can't talk about anything outside of a board meeting as a whole group. So even if there's, smaller things or things that we've talked about before, if we want to talk about them further, it has to come back to a board meeting. So we'll be talking about that again near the end of our meeting. And then I wanted to point out that we've scheduled an extra meeting. So, we only have a couple months left of school, how many weeks is it? 4, 5, 6 weeks, somewhere in that time frame. But the board goes all the way through the end of June. So I think of it as like, well, how many board meetings do we have left? We would have had 4 board meetings after this week's board meeting, but we added another one on May 3rd, 6 p.m. And this meeting is just going to be to talk about facilities. So we have a number of big projects, master plan projects at schools that are part of our Measure BB bond. So we've got Bracker and Briarwood and Westwood elementaries that are having big master planning for the whole campus, and then some of that work to be done under the Measure BB bond. So it's a chance they've been working on it for a while. They want to bring it back to the board members so that we can see what the status is, where they are, and give any input that we might want to give or feedback on those projects. There's also the Laurelwood Patrick Henry campus that's being built. It'll be a chance for an update on that, especially around how many students we should build that campus for, because things can change since we first were talking about the bond years ago and got the bond approved. So we're going to just look at that again. We can't talk about it except at a board meeting. So if there's something that the staff wants to bring to us, here we are. We'll be talking about it at the board meeting on May 3rd. And if you are interested in that, you'll want to watch that meeting and give us give us any comments or feedback on that. So I think those are the facilities updates that we're going to be getting at that. And I tried to squeeze them into some other meetings, and our meetings just go long, so we had to keep pushing them out. And finally said, okay, let's make a meeting, have its own meeting. May 3rd, 6 p.m. is when that is. And then we have a few more meetings through the end of the year, and that'll be our meeting for this week. Thursday night starts at 5 o'clock. It's a little bit earlier because we have such a long closed session. And we'll be back from closed session around 7:30 or so. So I hope that you will join us so that you can hear what's going on for yourself, and see what kind of decisions we're making, what we're talking about, and give your input. So you can always comment at board meetings in person or on the Zoom. I keep saying that because I always want to get your input. You can also email the entire board at boardmembers@susd.net. You can email me, jmuirhead@susd.net, or Facebook or Twitter. You can find me there. So thanks so much for listening through to the end. And I always appreciate it. I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say and keeping you all up to date on what we're doing and what's going on in the district. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you around the district. Okay, talk to you soon.